Good evening. My apologies for running a little bit late. It looks like we have a bunch of continuances, so if we can knock off a few of these. If anybody's here for 47 or 48 Town Way, that's going to get continued, as well as 0 Country Way, 132 Maple Street, and 39 Brunswick. So we're going to continue those. And then 78 First Parish will be the first.
780.
780,
Sorry.
thank you. So, just find the, need a motion to continue.
I make a motion to continue 0 Country Way to, let me see,
February 10th?
February 10th at 6:20.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I make a motion to continue 132 Maple Street for an indeterminate amount of time. They did not specify a date, right, Amy?
Correct.
Okay.
Should we put something on it, or how do we?
No, so they're not continuing to a date and time certain, so they'll be re-notifying.
So we'll have to notify abutters? Okay.
Okay.
Re-advertise, yeah.
I make a motion we continue 39 Brunswick Street to March 2nd at 6:20.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you. 780 First Parish Road.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jeff Hassett, a civil engineer with Morse Engineering. And with me is Jerry Dwight, who is the property owner of 780 First Parish Road. So as you mentioned, this is a continued public hearing for an NOI and a stormwater permit for a new single-family home. To give you a quick recap, the property is about 5.7 acres in size. Of that, about 4 acres is upland. We have the wetlands highlighted in blue on this plan. And the project does require a wetland crossing in order to get back to access the upland portion of the property. At that crossing, we do have a bottomless box culvert, and we are replicating the wetlands at a ratio of 2:1. The project's been reviewed by Chesia Consulting as well as Art Allen, a wetland scientist, and there have been a couple of hearings up to date on this. At the last hearing, Greg Morse from my office was at the meeting. And there was really one design change that was recommended, and that was to eliminate, when you first come into the property on the left-hand side, we had a grass depression for stormwater, and the idea was to eliminate that area and put in a stone trench instead in order to minimize the amount of disturbance. And then we talked about planting that area as an emerging growth area. So currently it's an existing lawn. It's between First Parish onto the driveway. In this area here, it's about 5,000 square feet of lawn, and that will be replanted with bushes. So we had Brad Holmes put together a planting plan for that, and he came up with 63 bushes of 7 different types, so some variety. So that was really the only design revision. In addition to that, we added conservation markers. Being a large property, there's 18 of them. We also added the erosion barrier detail to the plan, and we updated the Form 3 to reflect some of the changes that were made throughout the review process. So at this point, we have addressed all of the comments from that last meeting.
Penny?
No, my only concern is that when this property, if we approve this plan and this property is sold, is that we do need some markers out there, because even a 40-foot wide house, you're getting real close to the 50 on each side where the house is situated, and that's all that. I just want the new owners, if it becomes new owners, are well aware that you've got a very small envelope here to work in. I mean, you have all this gorgeous natural land, but
Yep.
you do have small, for developing it into swimming pools, tennis courts, or this and that, because it's a gorgeous spot out in the woods. That would be my only concern, and I would like to see something in the orders that would reflect that, you know, that it is a very small envelope, and whoever builds to be well aware of that.
Sure. Yeah, there are the markers that we added to the plan, and then during construction, there will be the 12-inch mulch sock.
Yeah.
And that goes around the entire perimeter of the work, so you'd have to know that you're going over that if
Yeah,
someone...
well,
And then after construction, the markers will be in place.
yeah, because that has been a problem on a few questionable properties in the past. It won't be a problem here, and because it's a gorgeous place to live, out in the woods there. I mean, you have so much you can do with nature. So that's my only comment. Jen?
I think I'm good, but I'm trying to understand your concern about the markers. If they're on, are you talking about if the property was to be sold before it was like cleared or developed? And like they
Even
didn't
after a
know?
house is developed. Yeah,
Okay.
we've had problems. I mean, if you look at this, all right, you have
Yeah.
the wetlands. That's the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah,
Okay, so on each side of the house, there's not a heck of a lot of room before you're into the 50-foot buffer, and that's no disturb, that's state and
Right.
us. You know, and
Yeah.
that's what my concern would be, to make sure that that is well marked, so when development does start on
Sure.
the property, they, you know, it's,
do you want to move any of these markers?
no, I mean, they have to be on the 50-foot, that's. the
Right,
thing.
but if
Oh.
there's 18 and they're marked, like,
I want to make sure
yeah,
they're there forever.
okay,
So, as the house is sold and this and that
Okay.
we've had such a lot of encroachments in different projects
Yeah.
over the year Frank and I have watched. And then to go back and fight with the new people, it's like pulling teeth. That's all. I don't care how they do it, but I just would like
okay.
permanent marking out there where the 50-foot is the no disturb. That you can
Okay.
walk out there, enjoy
Right.
it, but don't touch anything. That's just
They're
me.
supposed to levitate?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I said they can walk.
I know, you said don't touch anything.
Don't touch with your hands.
Oh, okay.
Jen, you want to add to that?
So my concern actually mirrors Penny's, and I'm not sure how you do it any more than what Penny has indicated. I mean, it's going to be very easy to hide out there. It's a long ways off the road, and we've seen many cases where once it is built, I guess my concern's more once it's built, Penny.
Yeah, well,
That
that too.
another owner down the road
Yeah.
might decide that they're just going to make it a little, enhance it here and there, and forget where they are and how tight it is to the wetlands. And I'm not sure how we address it. I'm really not. But that's really, as I reviewed the last meeting and as I've been out there now, that really was what came to mind immediately.
I think with the conservation posts, the markers along the limit of work, anyone who buys the property in the future, they're immediately going to see those and know that they have to be aware of it.
Hope so. Yeah.
We hope.
Ian?
No other questions?
We can only hope for the best.
Ian?
Yeah, so
This is
we've
his.
met
Yeah.
many times on this, and it's gone back and forth with the peer review and the engineer and meetings, and
Yeah.
I think they've done a pretty good job to, make a good project for a 5-bedroom, single-family home with a limited crossing. So if this is going to be approved, you probably want to talk about special conditions and going along with the permanent no-touch buffer in perpetuity. I'm going to come up with some really strong language for that permanent buffer and the conservation markers. The other thing that I was thinking about is phasing of the construction. So we want to make sure that they replicate and install the stormwater infiltration in first phase prior to the building permit.
Oh, okay.
issuing.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody in the audience? So, the things I remember about the last meeting, Jeff, we did talk a lot about the markers, and I think that's a good idea. And unfortunately, we put markers up, and we still have issues where people just move beyond them. I realize there's only so much you can do. We're not going to have a huge fence or something like that, but we did, and then the plantings and using that area, and that area was going to be a rain garden, but I think it was the consultant's position that maybe it would be better to put a trench along the driveway. So I'm assuming that's what, I didn't look at the plan,
Right, yeah.
but that's what's on the plan now, to deal with the runoff from the driveway.
It is, yes.
Okay. So we have that, then we have the plantings that we discussed. And I think the last thing was that was the consensus of the commission that this is a pretty sensitive area. There's quite a bit of disturbance within the 100. And was there any way to add some sort of restrictions on some of the open space that it would not be developed? I think that was the question that was posed to Greg, and whether that could be in some sort of deed restriction or something like that. I don't know whether he passed that on, or
Yeah.
if you guys discussed it, or what your thoughts are.
So we did talk about it, and when this property was divided in the past, they created 3 lots that are 3 to 6 acres in size. And at that point, the property owner voluntarily essentially restricted it, because he could have further divided it, got a number of more lots by doing either common driveways or even a roadway. So he feels he's already restricted the property and wouldn't want to devalue this lot with a permanent restriction. But this lot, also anywhere you would expand in the future, you're probably within the 100-foot buffer zone, and it's restricted naturally anyways in that regard, and that you'd have to come back in front of your commission for approval.
Right. I guess, and we did have that discussion as well, and we appreciate that it wasn't maxed out as some other places are. It's, obviously, the orders will be recorded, so they're part of the deed.
Did you want to look at the new plan up close? This is the newest.
I've looked
Okay,
at it.
yeah, okay,
And I think they did a good job
No,
with the
I do too.
markers.
yeah.
And, it's just one of those things that someone that owns the property can't control when they sell it to someone else. They do the best we can to do this, and then hopefully people observe that.
Frank,
No, we
so
do so much.
we could put a condition as append a copy of the site plan showing the permanent markers. I don't know, maybe have them really call out that this is permanently protected within the 50 in perpetuity.
Yeah.
And just have that appended to the orders which get recorded. So that way, when it comes up in title, it'll be clear. You wouldn't even have to come into the office to see that this is permanently protected.
Sure.
That's good.
I think that's about that's sort of consistent with what we've done with other properties, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for this? Okay.
I make a motion to close.
Second.
Waited for that for a while. Huh?
We got a vote.
Do I have a second?
I second.
did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, 47 Town Way, I think we want to continue that.
Yeah, wait a second. Huh?
Want to continue 47 Town Way?
Yes, I do, I'm sorry. I make a motion to continue 47 and 48 Town Way to 6:20 on February 10th.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. 279 Old Oaken Bucket Road is an ANRAD.
Oh, you should see. Hi,
We opened this, right, at the last meeting?
Yes.
Hi, Mark, 270 Survey Consultants. We've got 279 Old Oaken Bucket Road, that's 5.33 acres, predominantly upland. We have an A series of wetlands flags that were done by Brad Holmes of ECR. A B series over here, little C series. On the gentleman you used for your peer review, there's actually a drainage ditch that meets the definition of an intermittent stream. There's a larger wetlands area up here right off the road. Road drainage is going into it, and it filters down through here under a driveway on the abutting property, and then kind of peters out to absolutely nothing. As per his request and Amy's request, we went out and surveyed that in, copied the inlet bank. And we also, Amy had asked that we show there's a little existing swale alongside the driveway. We showed that by survey as well. And so we're asking, it's an ANRAD, that you accept the wetlands lines. Anybody has any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Before we start with
Yeah.
you folks, Amy, this was reviewed by Art Allen,
Right.
and you were on the site. I haven't had a chance to walk out there. So have we got feedback from Art
Yes,
on this?
we did.
Do you want to?
Yesterday, there was a meeting.
Well, he had given his findings the day of the site walk, later that afternoon, in an email format with the comments that Mark just made. So we had a few additions to the plan, but we did walk the lines and confirm the different series that are shown on the plan. Penny was actually there too. And so we formalized it with a report yesterday after they submitted their revised plan. So we've got peer review accepting this delineation.
Okay. Penny?
I don't have a problem with the peer review, and I don't think I'm out of line, but one thing I saw out there that disturbed me greatly was all the gas cans on the concrete slab, full of Lord knows what. There must have been 20, Amy. There was a ton of them, and major concern to me. But the actual INRAD,
These were around the home? or-
they're right by the house. There's a concrete pad that they had, I don't know what it was, if they had a greenhouse there or what, but that's gone. And they were just standing on there, and we kind of just stayed away. We weren't opening them, it was very disconcerting, because when the site is developed, there's a lot of stuff that has to be removed, rubbish and so forth and so on. That's one thing, rubbish, mattresses and beds, but that, to me, is not good.
I don't think my client will have any problem getting rid of those.
Well, they have to be
The
properly
site- the
disposed.
site-
I don't know what they are.
To be quite frank, the first people on the site from my office was a survey crew, and the chief of party of the survey crew was amazed. I mean, it's a dump.
It's sad.
Truly, it's sad.
It's no other way.
So day at a time, this is just a site that's in very, very tough shape. I don't know if somebody was using it as a private junkyard, but it's amazing how much debris is out in that site. which
All
event-
over the site.
Eventually will get cleaned up, obviously.
Well, the gas cans were the concern to
Yeah.
us, and they were
Got
full
it.
of something. Because I think Art went over and pushed one, and he said, I don't know what's in there, but there's something in there, and we walked away. That is just a concern.
And your client owns the property now? I know this
Yes.
was in foreclosure and...
Yeah, my client bought it at foreclosure. Yep.
But the lines were fine, you know, when Art and Brad Holmes was out there.
Okay.
Yeah, the four
Jen?
of us.
I don't have any I guess I don't have questions about the lines, but more the implication of the
What's that?
the dump on the property and how that might reflect like an enforcement order for a clean out. 'Cause, like, maybe it doesn't, nothing happens to the property for quite some time. So we don't know when the next step might happen, and we still want to protect it in the meantime. So what that might mean.
Are any of these contaminants and stuff, are they within any of our buffer areas?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I wonder if that's either a fire department or Board of Health, if they should be notified that they may want
There's
to.
some mattresses.
I mean, it sounds like your client wants to move on something, but I guess you're here and that
Oh,
we'd
yeah,
like to know that
mattresses were
it's,
in the buffer.
I've been on the site, I get it completely. It's
Oh, yeah, no,
terrible. And as far as,
but I'm
again, as
concerned.
far as contaminants, petroleum, oils, lubricants, whatnot, the gas cans, I'm sure my client will have absolutely no problem addressing that.
Even if the contaminants aren't, in a strictly speaking conservation, if it got into the ground, it's going to get there.
yeah, but I think it depends, I mean, if they were in a buffer, then
Yeah,
we could
then-
clearly say.
Right, right.
And issue an enforcement order, as Jen said. But there's the fire department has jurisdiction
Yep.
over some of that stuff, and then the Board of Health does. And whether they need to be, maybe they've already been out there, I don't know, but I'm just saying it might be a good idea. Different agencies often work together, and
Actually, I've already spoken to Al Elliott, who's our fire prevention officer, about it. We were talking about, I don't know, if he's gonna take a look at it
Okay.
as a potential threat of a release. I mean, as you know, I'm a licensed site professional, so I do have a professional obligation under my license. If I thought it appeared to be an imminent hazard, which would be a health, safety threat,
if it's running out on the
of
ground.
like a 2-hour release, I'd actually be required to report it myself. But it did, I mean, it looked like it was sloppy housekeeping, probably associated with a waste oil tank or like small engine repair, that type of thing under a Quonset hut. I don't know, I'm sure there's some soil that needs to be drummed up or dug out.
So I guess what this reminds me of is when we got a report for the property that's in back of South Shorado.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there was issues with that. Now, some of that was definitely in our buffer, but I think you addressed it. It was like where the Topman Yard is and in back of the Russo mitigation
Sure, yep.
piece. And you worked with, I think the fire department looked at some of the stuff. You know, some of the materials weren't stored in the proper or properly labeled.
Right. Well, I mean,
Things.
here's a question, Mark. Did they do a 21E before they bought the property?
Not to my knowledge.
Because, I mean,
No.
typically when you buy property, if a bank's involved, then they would require some kind of an
If
environmental
it's
assessment.
if it's commercial, definitely, but this is residential, so a bank typically would not ask for 21.
Right, and so for future development.
Thank you.
Money put into cleaning it up and developing it, there will be financing involved. So there will be eyes on this project, you know, but I agree, the timing, I mean, I don't think it's an urgent matter, but on the other hand, I don't think we should look away, so it would be prudent to inform the fire department if they did. I mean,
For all I know, it's
DEP
water in those, but we don't
yeah,
know.
DEP could go out and, I don't think it's
I don't know.
rises to the level of a love canal, but I mean,
No,
the place
no.
is a mess
I
for
hope
sure.
not.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of debris, like solid
Sad.
waste debris, mattresses.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know,
What else is
I might convey this back to your client and just say, we're concerned, or more than concerned, would like to see it cleaned up. The fire departments got notified that your client might very well want to contact the fire department or the town and just say, listen, I got this property now, and I'm going to at least take care of these issues.
I will even tell my client, let's do a level 1 21E and see, you know, progress from there.
Well, if nothing else, get the
Get the gas.
Word out.
containers and
Contact with
stuff
the
like
fire
that,
department,
all that
Board of
sort of
Health,
stuff,
sure.
and,
Yeah, the
and
container.
clean that up.
You've already contacted the fire department?
We had a chat about it.
It wasn't official.
Yeah, I don't think there was
Yeah.
probably an incident report or anything. We had a staff meeting yesterday. We just brought it up.
I'll have my client, or on his behalf, I will talk to the fire department. And if we're going to do a site walk, would you like to be there?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
I mean, it was good
Richard?
news that, I mean, in the fact that there was.
Yeah, he's next
Right
door.
out there the day we were out there, and there was.
Nothing to do with the
sand,
hand, right, but what
water,
about all the trees
and
that are
there
down
was no
out
sheen
there?
evident, which would be.
I don't know, it's a mess.
You know,
Yeah, it is.
larger
No.
police.
No, I was out there
But
today,
when you look-
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be.
It
It's been
doesn't
there for a
belong
while.
there.
Fine.
If nothing,
Yeah,
an
it's not
animal
new.
could knock them over and they could spill whatever's in there.
I was just surprised that the general
Yeah.
Yeah, the general, no.
dump appearance of the site, that none of the neighbors had complained for all these years. I
Well,
mean, this isn't something that happened within 6 months.
Oh, no.
So,
No.
I mean, is there an oil tank in the house?
Uh,
Is it empty?
Usually, a lot of times when these properties get to this stage, it's not a surprise that there's a lot of problems there. So, Andy?
So, I would say this meets the requirements of no rad.
Okay, anybody in the audience for this? Well, we got the wetlands lines and things, you can get that information back to your client.
I make a motion that we accept the NRAD as presented.
So, yeah, close.
And we
make a
wanna
motion to
close this.
And then make an
I'm
issue,
sorry.
make a motion to issue also.
I'm sorry.
Two motions.
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to what?
Issue no rad.
Oh, to issue an ORAD to 279 Old Open Bucket Road.
A second?
We don't do
Second.
them now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This goes back to Penny.
Maybe I'll be in touch
Sounds
with
good.
the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you.
60 Hadley Road, Nicole Chandler. On January 22nd, 2020, at 6:25 PM, the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town and Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Nicole Chandler to construct an addition on a dwelling located at 60 Hadley Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Good evening. Robert Crawford, representing the applicant, Nicole Challenger. Basically, this project is in the southeasterly corner of Hadley Road and Richfield Road. It's about a 20,500 square foot lot. And the scope of the work is to remove existing decks on the easterly side, which is wetland, and construct a 17.5 by 14 foot enclosed porch, screen porch on posts, and a 7 by 14 mudroom, which will be constructed on a regular concrete foundation. Also adjacent to that, on the northerly side, is a 4 by 5 landing and stairs to access into the house. On the west side of the house, it's proposed to replace the existing brick steps with a 4 by 8 patio. The existing steps are around 3.5 by 6, I would guess. There's also wetland on the southerly side of the house. The screen porch will actually be within your 50-foot buffer zone by 3 to 4 feet. The portico would be approximately 5 to 6 feet into the 50-foot buffer in the front of the house. Basically, they're in the same area as their existing features of the house. Try to answer any questions you have.
Any?
It's all lawn around that house, right?
It's what, lawn?
All lawn.
Yeah. there's a
Lawn and
few-
some gravel.
Yeah,
few,
I'm trying to place it Richfield.
Basically, you're talking about the back of the house. You said east, but
Most of the work is
it's
on
in the back,
of the
yeah.
house,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
That's 65. That's what they, they're like. This is the back of the house here.
Frank, you want to see this?
Jen, yeah, please.
I'm just trying to trying to follow the map. There's a lot of different lines on there. There's a lot happening.
This picture then has them labeled,
Yeah.
the screen, the mud, room,
Yeah,
portico, out front.
I think I'm okay.
We'll come back to you. Richard?
No, I'm okay for the moment. Because you've indicated that this is really replacing stuff that's already there.
Yes.
Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
And is what's replacing it actually larger by how much?
Well, I would say it's only by a couple of feet, maybe 28 square feet. The screen porch is bigger than what the existing deck is.
That's what I was asking.
Both the existing deck and the proposed screen porch will be on posts, different posts, but they're on posts.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Frank, this shows a picture of the actual.
Erosion control barrier around the work
Of course.
to prevent any siltation of the wetland.
It does.
Any questions?
Amy?
Yeah, so the NOI came in, we had a question about the state of the resource area flagging, which Bob subsequently updated and confirmed with South River Environmental. But I mean, it's a house that predates 1986, you know, it's in an area that wouldn't necessarily be permitted now because it's within the 50-foot buffer to DVW. But their proposal, I mean, it's a very modest expansion addition project that I think is consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act. DEP had no comments. I think we're good.
Anything else? Anybody in the audience?
Are you all set, Frank?
I'm good.
I make a motion to close.
A second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Just-
No, it's fine. It shouldn't be too big. This is 33 Oceanside, the amended.
33 Oceanside.
Well, near the, I think that's his name.
On January 22nd, 2020, at 6:30 PM, the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws, to amend the order of conditions issued under DEP file number 682767 regarding the application of Alfred Boyajian to build new foundation, garage, driveway, covered porch, lawn, landscaping, and install infiltration trenches on property located at 33 Oceanside Drive, Scituate. Interested parties are invited to attend. So before we start, just so everybody understands, so this project was already before the commission. We conditioned this project with various orders. The applicant disagreed with those orders. They appealed to the state. We got a superseding order, and so now we're looking at that order. And we have kind of like an amended orders, and we're basically working with the directives we got from the state on their superseding order. So, Paul?
Okay, thank you. As you know, we had a site meeting with the DEP, and they subsequently issued a superseding order of conditions, but before that superseding order was issued, we had performed some additional topographic work to the north side of the property. At the sidewalk, the abutter who owns this property here, Mr. McDonald, was concerned about the impact of water coming in this direction, hitting the garage, and perhaps having an impact on them. We went out, we did some additional surveying of this property. We had designed a recharge system, and that was presented to him by the owner of this property, Mr. Boyajian. And for whatever reason, Mr. McDonald rejected that idea. So we went back to the drawing board, so to speak, and we came up with this design here. This is a series of infiltrators. There's a detail here where it has to put on the plan by DEP. There's also a long grate detail. What this would do is to take the water from the smaller storms. In the larger storms, if it were to surcharge, the water would come up through these small lawn grates, and the water would flow onto Oceanside Drive in a swale that's on top of the chambers. This was reviewed by the DEP. That's something that they asked us to look into, and that was the final design, and we submitted that to them, and with some technical information, which is part of the SOC as well. Based upon that, the superseding was issued accordingly. So the only change to the plan that we submitted to the commission, the final plan that was referenced in the order conditions which denied the project, was this is referred to as proposed site plan B. This is the plan we're asking to submit as the amendment. And the only change to the original plan is the addition of this final design of the infiltrators here, along with the two details.
Okay.
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think that...
Just that you want to state your
I'm
name.
sorry, Chip Nyland representing the applicant. I was there at the site visit. I know that there were a lot of issues with respect to flooding, and I don't think there's any question that there's water that encounters the site. But the issue is, what are we doing? Are we exacerbating? Is there anything that we're doing to increase the flooding? And I think that the department agreed with our view that with the infiltration, that we're not going to be increasing flooding out there. I think that that's the most important point. I think that's why they approved the project. If you recall, they're worried. We actually had a berm or a barrier by the McDonald property, and they were worried about that there would be backflow onto their property. So I think we solved that major problem, and I think the department was satisfied that we're not adding to the flooding issues down in that area.
Thank you.
Could I just ask one question? You are putting in a full foundation now, right?
Yes,
Okay. Are there going to be any of those breakaway walls?
yes.
Flood vents.
Flood vents, right?
Floodgates, yeah.
The vent would be on any part of the foundation that would be at elevation 15 or lower.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just wanted to...
Do we have a
Make
plan
sure.
of that, Paul?
Pardon?
Do we have a plan showing the
The foundation
foundation
plan?
with the flood vents?
Actually, the elevation of this slab is 16, so you wouldn't have them here. Under your local rules and regs, you require the foundation to be 1 foot above base flood. So this is 16. The garage is at 15.1. So technically, we don't need the flood vents in here. But I understand correctly. We don't need any for this
All right.
house because we're all above it. Every slab in this building is at or above the flood zone elevation. So under the FEMA requirements in the building code, we don't need them.
Jen?
No.
No. Richard?
Nope.
Amy, want to add to this? The audience?
House the name on the street.
I don't know what else we can add to this. You know that our concerns for
The area.
the area, the neighbors, the vulnerability to that site, hopefully all the things that you've designed here work properly, and that it doesn't create more of a hazard for for the folks around it. And
So,
Yeah, nobody can solve all those problems. I mean,
No.
There are infrastructure problems that are, that the town at some point may have to face, but again, we want to make sure that we're not adding to it, and I think that's, you talk about the roof drains, I mean, we've done other infiltration on site as
Yeah.
well as for the
no,
water.
I think they've added all the pieces that they can, and it's just, obviously, when you're raising or filling an area around other people, it's a low area, it absorbs some of that water. We get it, that it's in a flood area, and once it's flooded, it's flooded. And what little bit of change there is fairly insignificant. It's the difference in small storms and whatnot, so hopefully these infiltrators and other things will at least absorb some of that
alleviate those.
Yeah,
issue.
I think it will.
We'll find out.
Okay, I'll take
Okay,
a motion.
So I make a motion, do we close this like any?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I have a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, I know.
Thinking. Is there, I don't remember our original order of conditions or how it comes into play, but I believe we talked about maybe doing like a post-project survey or something, or like to kind of establish the state of affairs after the project is over to determine if there's any creep in the future.
There's an as-built required.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
do you
and
know
I
what I'm
think
To get the
Yeah,
seal.
that's
on
what it's certificate
23
requires.
Oceanside, we had a requirement that after, like, 45 days, that the engineer evaluate whether or not the infiltrators were
Working.
working, to accommodate like a 72-hour storm event or something like that. It's not the exact wording, but not 33. 33 was different. So,
It's 2 feet higher.
But I think Jen's point is, in the case of some of these projects, that we condition a certain project, and that's what's supposed to be built there. And then the project gets built, maybe there's a certificate of compliance that's done, and then more gets added to it. So I think, but by having a as-built plan, so when this project's completed, the applicant's supposed to get a certificate of compliance. Typically, the certificate of compliance gets some sort of as-built. Paul certifies that the project was built in accordance with the plan.
Yeah, we've been doing that for all the COCs in Scituate.
Right,
We're
yeah.
doing
But then,
as-built topographic and,
so to Jen's point, once that thing is done, that's documentation of how the site is.
Right.
So then, if the site is altered after that point in time, we should have some baseline information to show what was really there, and then what might have been changed.
And the as-built will reflect any walkways, any stones,
that don't
any
belong there.
infiltrators, anything like
Oh,
that.
should be there.
Is that a?
The as-built has to reflect everything that's on this plan, and the engineer has to state that it was built in accordance with the plan.
I guess I'm just trying to clarify that built doesn't just restrict to a house and also touches like a walkway or something like that.
I think that the driveway, the steps, all that stuff is on the,
Anything that's on the plan.
Okay.
I think, too, just to step back, let's face it, a lot of times somebody does not come in for a CSC for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years until they sell it. Maybe we would like when the house is moved, the foundation's in a orderly time fashion, just to go down, get an as-built at that point in time, whether they're looking for their CSC or not. But that's what happens many times. I don't know.
well, what we usually find is when people don't do the CFC and they've lived there for 20 years, then they've done all the different things that you talk about. Different owners come in, somebody adds a walkway, somebody paves a driveway.
I know, well,
With
Jen
that.
wants to see what it's
But,
like
but
when it's done.
the converse part would be that someone wraps up the project, it looks exactly like what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
They get their CFC,
Yeah.
and then after that, they don't have a big concern about how they alter it. So, unless the commission brings
I
it
understand what you're saying, but
to their attention. So,
it's just that it is a sensitive area, and we know that the neighbors are
Well, we
extremely
know what we're
concerned.
approving, so that if it's different than what we're approving, then that's an issue.
Okay.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I sat on my commission for a long time. We would get people that were walking in, the day before the close.
What town were
Oh,
you?
yeah, we
Up in
do too.
Ipswich.
Okay.
One of the things that they do, one that, I don't know if it's, I can't remember if it's Falmouth, is that they have, that you have to apply for a certificate of compliance before the expiration of the order. So you could, and the reason you add that as a commission, and we don't have a problem with that, but that also means that it wouldn't expire, so therefore you have that certificate of compliance before it
Right.
expires. And then you can take care, if there happen to be issues, then you can deal with it. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. I would say to my client that would be fine if you wanted to require that the certificate of compliance has to be applied for before the expiration of the order, then that might solve your problem.
Well, and I had another point too, was on this one, there's ongoing maintenance requirement for the infiltrators.
Oh,
So,
that's right, yeah.
There will be eyes on this, or, there'll be a requirement from the owner. in the
Maybe
We have
they
an
don't
O&M, we have
Yeah.
an O&M plan.
Right, which we-
Operation maintenance.
Typically append the O&M plan to
We'll have
the
to,
orders.
to think about that, Mr. Nyland's piece,
Yeah.
that maybe in the
Bad
future,
idea.
we could add that to our orders, that people have to get a CFC before their orders expire. I mean, that still gives them a lot of time, especially if they ask for an
Sure.
extension.
It also takes into account, you don't say 3 years because if it gets extended, then.
Right, so
That's
you
why
say,
Yeah,
wait
yeah,
till
yeah.
3 years.
yeah,
That's how
Anyway,
long
it's a
the order
thought.
should.
no, good,
That's a
appreciate it.
good one. I like that. Okay, so
Anybody else?
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And now, do we vote to accept the amended orders, or it's, okay, we don't have to do anything
Well,
else with it?
We don't have
still-
the orders ready, so we'll do
Okay.
that next meeting.
Okay, but they'll be superseding, right? And,
It's gonna be an amended order.
yes,
And
okay,
it- with conditions that we typically have,
yeah, okay,
specifically for project
Very
like
good.
this, yeah.
thank you,
Great.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
This is for 8 Ocean Drive, after the fact shed and fence. On January 2nd, 2020, during the 6:15 meeting at Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will act on the request of Kathleen Armstrong for a determination of applicability to Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Scituate Wetlands bylaws to build a shed and remove and replace existing fence on property located at 8 Ocean Drive, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Catherine Armstrong, how are you?
How are you?
David Armstrong.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm here because actually I was requested to come before you. So this is an after the fact, the shed is in place.
Sure.
It's in the northeast corner of the property. And it's been there since the fall of 2017. And the shed became an issue, as I understand it, by the neighbor who contacted you. So that is why I'm here.
Okay.
It is, it does not meet the threshold size-wise for a permit, so we built it to comply with 6 by 8 or smaller. And the lot is, do you have this, anyone of you have this?
Yep.
Yes, okay.
Yep.
So the lot is what it is. When you
they're
take
on
the
top of
house,
each other.
the deck, and what's left of the lot size, there is only one area. It could have gone, so that's where we put it. It's been there for 3 years, uncontested, without issue, until recently.
Did it replace another shed, or was it brand new?
It did not replace.
And the fence, did that replace a fence that was there?
The fence that I am asking, that, which is not after the fact, is the the easternmost point of the property line is a picket fence that is, has rotted. The bottom pickets are actually flapping and swinging in the breeze. So that's what I figured. If I was to come before you, I might as well throw that in there because we were talking and hoping to replace it, but now we would like to do that with your knowledge.
You've got a rundown fence?
I do. I know, it's
Shocking. Down on the beach.
it's gone too long, but now, and we've been talking about doing it, so now, of course, that we
Sure,
have
it's
this
just a
other
discussion.
issue, we want to put it in there and make sure that it's
Penny, can I see
our
Yeah, you sure can.
replacing it is with your blessing.
Okay. Penny?
It's very tight down there. There's not a heck of a lot of room to put a shed.
Correct.
I don't have a problem.
And like Catherine said, when we were here, we do want to replace that.
Yeah.
That's likely this winter. We just didn't want to have an issue doing that and having the neighbor
Right.
have a concern.
See what everyone else.
So
Those are the
it's,
proper steps.
Right. Anything down there, just give a holler, see if you need to file. I'm sure you thought you were doing absolutely nothing
I think
wrong.
because the size was
Yeah.
in compliance, I
Well,
thought it was
see,
a
that's
non-issue,
what the
but.
building department,
Yeah,
we're different.
yeah, okay.
I know where the house is, of course, I've passed it a million times, I never noticed,
Yeah.
honestly.
Never noticed the shed.
Never
yeah.
noticed the difference from the time you put up the shed to not. I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't
Notice the
affect,
fence either,
and,
probably.
well, I don't go to the south end of Humrock all the time, but, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It's
On the-
it's not a view blocker, and
No,
we put it, we
no.
blocked it up, and placed it right on top of, we didn't remove any material to put it in. We just put it in the only spot it could go, and it's to put things away, so that in the winter, things are not flying around as the winds pick up, and also everything rots, and we're replacing it. So it was really just to store and secure and protect outside stuff.
Amy, do they need any kind of, anything special for putting the fence up? We have asked that in the past down there. If they don't, I would just please, please, don't have it right on the ground. Have it raised so water can go underneath it. You would know that, I bet.
Rotting.
Well, that's why it's, yeah.
Yeah. If you
Jen?
put it up a little.
I was trying to follow what you were saying on the foundation for the shed. Can you speak to?
It's just it's blocked up so that there's airflow.
Blocked up, okay.
Yeah, so that there's airflow and critters
Okay.
can pass through.
Sits
and
on I think they're 4 by 8 by 16 concrete blocks, 2 of them,
It sits on 2 blocks.
in each corner.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
4 blocks.
I was like,
8 blocks.
all right.
Do we know what this is in? It's a AO or
Oh, it's got to be,
the zone, the flood zone? Do you have any recollection of what?
I don't believe it is.
got to be a velocity zone.
Can't, maybe not a velocity.
No,
No, I think it's
AO,
AO.
probably, AO, probably AO.
Yeah, I think it's AO.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the high end of Humrock.
yeah.
It's the triangle.
So-
But it's a coastal dune. I mean,
Yes,
it's a
absolutely.
coastal resource area on a
Yep.
barrier beach.
Yep.
Do you want me to just go through mine?
Well, let's go, yeah, maybe you want to elaborate first, and then these guys can jump in.
Yeah. All right, because so, this is red folder site, which means that it was in response to a complaint that we received about a shed going in unpermitted. So we asked for an after-the-fact permitting. So it's a request for determination of applicability. So we're looking for either a positive or a negative finding.
Yeah.
So positive would be
They got a file.
needs to be evaluated as a notice of intent, or a negative would be meets the requirements of it, like, not altering or disturbing the resource area, so the project can go through as permitted. But so indeed, there was a complaint, and I think it's a neighbor wrote an email, which I'll hand to you with their comments, but this is after that notification went out. But I think largely it's a civil matter. I did speak to the building commissioner about setbacks and stuff like that. So again, this is not purview, but just so you guys know, I mean, that there's a 15-foot side setback and an 8-foot rear property line. We don't have a site plan with property lines on it, although it does appear that it's certainly pretty close. Building permits do not get triggered unless the shed size exceeds 200 square feet,
Yeah.
which I don't think that this did.
63 square feet.
Yeah, so you were under that threshold. as far as the fence goes, you can put a fence right on the property line.
We had Rebecca Taylor surveyed it, and the fence that we do plan to replace currently is about 6 inches in from the property line. It's been like that for 35 years. So we're just gonna put in the same footprint.
Right, so I mean, since it's not a notice of intent, I mean, just, I think we want to be consistent with what we would do for other properties down in Hummerock. You know, I think that we have definitely permitted sheds down in the developed area of Hummerock before
Yep.
through RDAs, so that would be consistent.
So Amy, if it doesn't comply with the setbacks and they need to move it or change it, would they have to come back?
Yeah.
If they have to touch it in any way, they would have to come back, right?
I don't think so.
Well,
I mean,
you're saying if we approve this,
yeah,
and then they've just got to shift it in some direction, I would say just some sort of notification,
yeah.
possibly a minor activities permit,
Yeah.
just so we have something on file and we can enforce
Right.
it. But I think, you know, that this email is citing zoning issues, which we don't have jurisdiction on.
Right.
So our jurisdiction is that it's built in a buffer area, and as you say, is it consistent with other projects that we've allowed? And if we feel that this is, I don't really see the issue. There's no real detrimental impact of the shed in this location. Now, what's the ground there? Was it a lawn or was it?
Sand.
It's all sand and gravel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a
It's up on block, so that sediments
Water
can
can
migrate,
flow.
water can flow. I
Okay,
mean, if it was a really major flood, it could.
It still would go.
It's-
Shifted, like, you know,
As major as it's gotten down there, it's dry as can be.
perfect.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
has
good
been.
spot,
Don't
yeah.
jinx us, we're on the good
No,
end.
it has.
Yeah, you're on the
Yeah.
nice, the
Yeah.
calmer end.
They're at the high
for the
end.
next 20 years,
Well,
Then you're all gonna be
Yeah.
undone.
So it's an island on the other end.
right.
Yeah.
So
Say that.
that's the shed conversation, the fence for the back line. Do we treat that separately? Is there a
No, we overall just
Yeah.
You're essentially
Minor
replacing an
activities.
existing,
Replacing existing.
yeah.
so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, Richard? you-
No, I would think the fence would be minor activities, a
Yeah.
Well,
very simple thing. but-
They've already filed an RDA, so they might as
And
well
it's
just,
on there, so
Oh,
do
okay.
it
Yeah.
with that.
Andy? Anybody in the audience?
And may I have a copy of the email? Public record,
Of course,
yes? Yeah,
absolutely.
okay.
I make a motion for a -3. That's a good one.
That's a
good
second.
one. Okay, Thank you.
Good negative.
Have a second?
Negative is good, I second it.
He seconded.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, you get it. Anything that's happening there.
Yeah,
Even
I
if
do.
it's, we are issuing minor activities permits for minor work, you know.
No, I get it. And
Oh, I-
Thank you. Thank you. No copies. Thank you.
Yep.
So then if I may, before we just close, for my, so you have a picture of the, this here? Yes, so on this, where it says 5-foot way, beyond the house, which is the darker gray, this square here is decking. And it is in disrepair. We want to resurface it, not change anything about it, just same
You're
footprint.
not doing anything in the ground different.
Not in the ground different.
You're just doing the floor.
Correct.
It's old pressure-treated decking.
Is that a minor
We're just gonna
activities
strip
or
it and
no?
put red sheeted decking
As long as
on
it
it.
isn't in the ground.
Yeah, right, so
You're
that's,
leaving the same post that it's on. Yeah,
Little
just,
as I can.
so we'd
Aside
be
from the
fine,
decking.
we'd be within our,
Yeah,
Right, too.
I mean, it's almost, I don't see why that shouldn't just be part, when Amy comes back in real quick.
I'll ask that.
just-
I just want clarity because
Yeah.
now we have this issue that
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
copying and I just want clarity
So you know
So,
where you
but-
stand.
on, yes, on home improvement.
Whether the building inspector
Thank you.
requires a permit for that,
Separate issue.
we're not
Yes.
weighing in on that.
Okay, yeah. But
So
as far as the
I mean,
Concom.
what
Okay.
the Armstrongs have asked is in addition to the fence and a shed, they want to redeck their existing deck. They want to.
Just the floor.
Not
remove
changing the footprint,
Not rebuilding
just
the porch.
resurfacing.
Just taking up the decking and redoing it. I mean, we don't really have an issue with that, but that's something that you could ask the building
Building,
inspector
Yeah. One
You
of
have
them is
concerns?
for. But,
Well,
But I
right,
thi-
so you'll need a building permit to do
Yeah.
that.
To resurface.
but I don't see that requiring an RDA if it's already there, or do we just say?
Well, it depends if it turns into like, now you're gonna, you found your footings are rotted.
Well, I guess if
That's
we do,
different.
then we would
That's
have to,
Groundwork, but I mean, we could add that to this.
Yeah.
I think we discussed it, it's clear.
You know, what'd be good,
So-
though, I think, would be for you to just give us a little quick sketch, drawings, picture
Yep.
of the deck, so that we
Picture
can
of
have that
existing,
in.
Picture of proposed.
Yep,
Yeah,
and we'll put it in the file.
because remember, we had, actually, it was a one on Ocean we had last year. Remember, and there was the deck in the dune,
Mhm.
and the guy was digging into the dune,
yeah,
and it was a beautiful deck,
yeah,
but it was.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's just good if we have something on record.
You want
All
to
right.
get
Remember the
a
one?
sketch?
Yeah, I do. I think
Is that what you're
what
asking?
it- way it
Couple of
ended up.
pictures.
Oh, pictures, okay, yeah.
I don't think he wanted
So
to, but I
again,
think
we
that's what we ended up
intend
with.
to touch a thing unless, like Amy suggested, you uncover anything
Right.
rotting underneath.
If you're gonna be doing any earthwork or something, then you're gonna come back and let us know,
Okay.
and if it's minor in nature, we can issue a minor activities
Okay,
permit. All right?
all right, very good.
Yeah,
All right,
just pick up the phone, give us a
yes,
call.
okay, will do. Thank you very much. Okay, all right, thank you.
Shovel in the ground, come see us.
Well, I guess Mr. Dwight's gonna be back,
Oh, here.
Mr. Dwight will be back again. He left his hat.
Oh, Jerry did?
Pretty, right?
Yeah?
So it's not pretty.
Yeah.
He was in Marshfield now,
Yeah.
too. I could take it and give it to Teddy. They see each other every weekend.
I do,
Or
yeah.
the boys.
He lives opposite our neighbor, and she jumped all over that quickly.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
good.
I know Karena's-
All right.
That's it.
For a second, it's phone out of line. Anyways,
Okay, thank you.
We're on
Thank you.
TV.
All right, we've worked through our hearings. Mr. Nazarella? Will you come on up?
Do I have to?
Yes, you do. Get up there.
You sat here for an hour and a half.
That's pretty reasonable.
Just introduce yourself for the record.
Yes,
if you
I'm
will.
Abdu Nasrallah from Nasrallah Farms. Also one of the owners of Penniman Hill.
Yep,
Remember Penniman Hill?
sure.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of good corn
made a
there.
bundle on that one.
A lot of good corn.
No, tease you. Actually, I've been farming for 40 years. Just to give you an overview as far as where I'm coming from.
But this is in regards to the
27.
Coptic Church at 27 Hood Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saw this one.
I've been
You wanna just look
farming
at the correspondence?
all my life. I have a master's in plant physiology. I've worked for the town of Cohasset, Hull, and Norwell as far as doing, they recommended me for different builders to put in repair wetlands or do replications. I was also in my town of Plimpton, where we live, or I live, my wife and I and children. I was chairman of the Board of Health for 22 years, as well as on the planning board and Board of Selectmen. And I appreciate what you people do to give up your time to dedicate to the town. It's, believe me, it's a thankless job, so to speak. But one of the things I learned very early in life was when we were incorporating or putting under production, say, 1,500 acres of corn, whatever, vegetable, I always was, and I was taught, stay away from the wetlands, you protect the land, because my father being a farmer all his life, you want to live off the land, you protect it. So one of the things I did, because I did have a certified from Massachusetts pesticide license, we would always maintain a 100-foot buffer, even though we could plant right up to the wetlands. I never sprayed. either a pesticide or a herbicide, which means we would lose some of that production. But I did it because I didn't want to affect the wetlands. Now, all that being said, coming to 27 Hood Road, which was a very difficult site, and working with Father Bishoy was, Father, we can't do that now. We can't do this now. He's very anxious, very rambunctious. He wants to get it done. And it's all for the love of the children.
Oh, yeah.
When one of the first things I did was I put the construction road in, and I actually expanded it more than it should have been. I like to overkill, so to speak. When it came time to applying the silt sock, and it was my fault. I mean, I take full responsibility for this. It was not properly staked out, and it was not laid in the proper area. Come to find out, we actually laid it in the 50-foot buffer. And looking back at the whole scenario, and now that I had finally I could get the engineer out there to stake where the silt sock should go, the area where it normally would go, there is no way in God's creation, without disturbing something, in order to put that silt sock down, which meant bringing in a heavy equipment. So we laid the silt sock thinking it was out of the buffer zone, which, my fault, it was, and I take full responsibility for that. But now that I see the distance and what the debris that we took out of there, in that one particular area around the silt sock, there was a lot of steel, there was an old spring mattress, there was boards, somebody was using it as a private dump. That all got hauled out. The only thing we did, as far as, was scratch the surface to get out all the briars and brush. There was no actual digging, there was no, other than getting stuck in the mud, but there was no digging of the soils, there was no removal of trees. But no matter how you cut the pie, it's in the
buffer.
Is in the buffer zone. And the only reason I'm here today is because to take admission for that first and foremost, and I do apologize because there was no malice or no intent to override or over, you people as far as the board, because I do respect boards. I did 25 years for the town of Plimpton. So even one of the arguments is, and I had a serious argument with Father Bishoy about, was after we cut the trees, he wants the stumps removed. And I said, well, two reasons why I wouldn't remove the stumps. You're disturbing the soil to a degree where it may or may not impact the wetlands, and it's a cost-effective thing. So the only other option I gave him was that we would come in with a track machine in the non-buffer zone areas and grind the stumps below grade, seal them off, and then just put loam and seed so the kids can play.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying everything in my power to maintain protection of the land, the surrounding area, as well as the area that I'm working in. I mean, just a quick analysis, I don't even fuel our equipment up in that general area. We pull it out, put it in a safe zone, and we fuel it. So I'm trying everything in my power. The only thing I will say, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an engineer, I'm a farmer, is I'll do whatever it takes to please the board to make it right. Again, like I said, I've done a lot of replications and wetlands for the towns of Cohasset, Hull, and Norwell. So I know what I'm doing when it comes to repairing wetlands. I apologize for scratching but there was no way I could even put in order to put a silt sock fence, it has to touch the ground. Mm-hmm. I would say if I had laid it out now where I see the stakes, 50% of it would have been above the ground, which is not effective. One of the things that we were planning on doing once we get the original silt sock in was put in a 4-foot strip in front of it, on the interior part of it, with wood chips. That would help alleviate any silt or anything that tries to get towards the silt saw. But in the meantime, I would like to continue and proceed with your blessing, but whatever you people decide to do, I'll do. One of the ideas I was thinking is taking the area that I damaged, supposedly scratched and took out all the briars and rubbish, is either apply straw, and then we replicate that in the spring, and it would be inspected by the board, by the agent, and we'll go forward. And every step I take from here on in, and I did sort of curse the engineer for not overseeing this, because it's not like I was there all the time. I did have other jobs that I was doing, and they were kind of far away. So, but I do take full responsibility, and I sincerely apologize to this board. Seriously, I do.
Well, we appreciate you being here tonight. Some people just try to skirt it.
This, believe me, I'm taking away time, and if I wasn't serious about this, and I didn't care, I wouldn't be here. I know what it's like to sit up there, and I appreciate that very much from the people.
Thank you. So, we got...
We need a replication.
Yeah, we got a good, the good news is, from you, from the engineer, from the church, I mean, we've visited that site fairly frequently. It's been kind of contentious and a lot of back and forth. We took a fair amount of time in determining wetlands lines. Not only their consultant, our consultant, we had somebody from DEP. So we
Oh, it is a very sensitive area. And I totally agree with you.
So we sort of get through all that, and we determine what can be done and what can't be done. And then, of course, something happens, and I'm in construction, and I appreciate the fact that sometimes things happen. People misinterpret that, and some people try to ignore it or fluff it off, and either you, their engineer, the church is all like, we realize...
Since I realized my mistake, I actually stopped the project. I called the engineer and I said, you need to get your butt down here.
Yeah.
This isn't right. Because I couldn't, he said to me, didn't you see the flagged areas that were, I said, no. The briars and stuff was so thick, I still have scratches on my legs just trying to get in there. Get in there.
A few of us have waded through there.
Oh, my God.
So,
and I'm on blood thinners, so.
You don't want to do that.
So,
anybody else here on blood thinners?
Yeah.
So,
you know.
So we kind of know what has to be done. We appreciate where you're at. I think the approach of leaving the erosion control, I'm going to kind of jump over.
It's okay.
Yeah, no.
So leaving the incorrect erosion control
absolutely.
Outside the scope of work is a great idea. I think stabilizing this with some straw or chopped mulch, whatever you want to put
You
that.
tell me, I'll do whatever you guys like.
Something simple.
Whatever you can get your hands
Straw.
on.
Straw. I've worked with it before.
Just stabilize it for the winter. We get maybe Amy, you want to just...
There's some brush piles that have been formed in that buffer area. Maybe those could be removed.
They're not bad, actually.
Well, you're talking about on the other side of that, there's like a stone wall inside the field. You know what the stone wall was for, don't you? Do you know why there are stone walls there? Anybody here have any idea why somebody would build stone walls in the woods?
Yeah, it used to be
farmland.
It was agriculture.
Yeah, it was
That
farmland.
area was all farmland.
Yeah,
That's how
road.
farmers
Sure.
divided off their property. But there is a row of, if you measure out from the building 300 feet, there's a row of fieldstones out there.
Sure.
And I didn't even get that far. I went out 200 feet. And Father said to me, I want to clean over here. I said, Father, this is really wet. And, to take this stone wall out is a lot of money. I didn't recommend it. So we went in there and started clearing the brush and made piles. But
Amy, I personally, I would just say, if they're not bothering anything at this point...
Just leave them.
Well, all right, so I had a conversation with Mr. Scanzillo,
Yeah,
who was the one who alerted us to
Yeah, the problem.
the.
Is that
the
his
whole-
first name, Chris?
Yes, Chris. Anyway, so I had a conversation with him this afternoon and told him, how they had been responsive, went out there, surveyed it, they'd find that there was an encroachment just as he had thought, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, the tentative plan, and he said, he did ask, is there any way, or what do you think will happen to those piles of brush that have been created since they disturbed the buffer? And I don't know, I think 'cause that's his egress in and out of his property, that he looks over, he sees now there's a pile of brush that wasn't there, so.
I
if
can
it
knock
just be
those down.
Knocked down or moved to the other side.
Yeah, I really
That's
don't want
all.
to move them, because the more I bring, and I even used a small mini excavator. I didn't want to bring in a huge excavator.
Yeah.
So I used it's all rubber tired. I could take that brush and just spread it back out, and that would actually
Without
protect the
creating-
erosion.
Yeah, that would be good without creating additional disturbance.
Oh, yeah, please, don't ask me to move it.
Yeah.
That's a pain in the, what. But, again, I can go in there and I would like, every time I do something, with the permission of the board, without over-exasperating this young lady, is have her come out and inspect everything that I do from here on in, just to make sure. And I'll buy her a cup of coffee.
She's got plenty of work.
You're allowed what? What's the minimum? $50 or less?
Yeah.
No,
No, don't
What the hell's
go
a cup
there.
of coffee?
not go
Don't go there.
I'm only kidding. But I will, I want to make sure that either the engineer
Plant it
or
in
somebody
spring.
is overseeing this.
right.
Because the
The
Well,
only,
in the
engineer
spring will
is
come out.
overseeing it. So
I'm sorry?
The Hazem is really got,
Hasn't,
Hazem,
Yeah.
yes. Hazem
Really?
is the one. that-
really?
Well, he needs to make
He needs to.
periodic,
Well, I had a meeting-
inspections, because it's, you're installing in,
Frank,
a stormwater
Yeah.
structure,
Move
so
it.
he's gonna need to
Exactly.
be involved
Okay.
in the grading.
Frank, if I
Right.
may say, the way I structured this construction was phase one, which is to go in there and just rub out all the briars and brush and clean out any debris. There was even rebar. I don't know how, there was 20, 30-foot pieces of rebar out there.
Well, from back when they built the, we got a few other things to do
All right,
tonight.
I
So,
won't keep you.
so let me just, can I just ask a couple of questions, because somehow,
Yeah.
so was there a pre-construction on site, or was that done in the office?
In the office.
So, that's never the best idea sometimes.
pre-construction on site.
And then, I think now everybody knows where the pieces are. Certainly, getting stuff cleaned up isn't a bad idea. We know that Father Pushoy is very zealous in trying to do
And
a
he's-
project here, but.
He's doing this for the children.
And we've had numerous conversation with him as well, and we've tried to explain our concerns for the environment, the buffer, and all that sort of thing.
Right.
And to be fair, they've certainly spent some money and time to sort this all out, and it sounds like they're spending more to do a good job on the site. So we all want the same thing, everybody's on board.
I appreciate that.
So
It means a lot.
I think the best thing at this point is we've sort of got a method to protect this, and that's all we want to do. And if there's got to be some planting, vegetation, I mean,
More than happy to do that.
you're the expert.
Yeah.
Work with Hassan and just,
I think what we should do currently now is stabilize
Yeah.
the soil. It hasn't been disturbed as much as you think, but it still has been disturbed. So we would put straw on that entire area from the new stakes where the new silt fence is going back to the
Sure.
old silt fence. We'll put straw in there, and it'll be at least 4 to 6 inches thick. That will help stabilize any soil and erosion during the winter months.
Yep.
And then come spring, I would recommend maybe some plantings, like the high blueberry bush or something of that nature. And then maybe also, there's particular grass seeds that we can apply to put down that would.
that'd be great.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
good.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we're all on the same track.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
these things
Now,
happen.
Are we
No,
going to
thank
get
you.
some sort of, something in writing so we
Yes.
can give it to the engineer?
Yep. Yep.
So you can resume working.
No, I'm not going to resume until I get the straw, I get everything in
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's
And
what I
then,
mean.
and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Thanks
time.
for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And, you guys doing a great job.
Did you, is your firm that did the bank stabilizations out on Third Cliff?
Yeah,
That's what I thought, yeah. Came up-
we had to use,
Those are good plant, I mean, the plant material
yeah,
seems to have stood up
we
well.
had to use, because the cliff was so steep, we had to use, we had to harness the
Repel them
guys.
down there, I remember that, yeah,
Yeah,
great.
Repel
Thank you.
down.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abdul.
You guys are awesome.
That's what we want.
We are. We're awesome.
Just in case anybody wonders, we're awesome.
We're awesome.
We don't,
Says-
we don't get that every night.
No, we don't.
Okay,
Nice people over there at the church.
well, it's too bad, though, I mean, there's a lot of concern about what happens, and then
I know.
it's a shame when,
It was a mistake. I really think it was just a mistake.
yeah.
They're not out to do us in, that's for sure.
Okay, so, anybody, we're through all of our regular business.
Yeah, we got a couple of things if you want, and then you can go on to any discussion.
Well, with your permission, of course.
Yes, with my permission, of course, thank you. Just say, yeah.
Get her permission, but hurry up about it.
I do. The orders of condition is written for 169 Border Street. Somebody like to second those?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the orders of condition as written for 115 Jericho Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion we accept the orders of condition for 35 Gannett Road as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Okay, Frank, I'm done.
Well, Amy's not back.
I know Amy has got to do the CSCs.
So we'll have a couple of other quick things
Yeah.
that we have to do. One of the things we try to do every year, or we should do every year, is what a reorganization or and vote members on the commission. And there's three, thanks, Jim. There's basically three positions. There's a chairman, vice chair, and secretary. And it's a good idea every year for everybody to take a look at that, see if anybody has any interest in changing anything, regrouping, whatever. I tried to reach Doug by phone to see if he had any thoughts on it, but we kept playing phone tag. So, anybody have any thoughts on how they'd like to do that? Richard, would you?
I do.
I do.
Richard, you can speak first, and then I'll speak.
Wow. That's a blessing.
I wouldn't change the chairman. The vice chairman could be changed very easily.
Well,
I think there's,
You're still
I mean, the
getting
vice chairman is
feedback.
used to sitting on your left,
Yeah.
so.
I make a motion to elect Frank Snow as chair.
I second that. Is that how we do?
Yeah.
This is a voting
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
well,
All in favor?
sure nobody else wants to.
No? All in
You guys can
favor?
speak up, you know.
You gotta speak up or you forever hold your peace around here.
I'm,
Everybody in
that's,
In favor?
agreement?
Yep.
Aye.
yeah.
I
Thank
make a
you.
motion
Thank
that
you very
Richard
much.
stays,
You just love all the work that's involved.
Yes. well, we need him right now.
We do.
I make a motion that Richard stays vice chair. He's still getting his feet wet and
What?
How long is
Wow,
he gonna get his feet wet for?
I'm so
7
glad-
years, I mean, really?
I mean, he has a new hairdo.
Well, that's okay.
Looks good.
This end is talking about it.
Did you
I'm
second it
recusing
for me?
myself.
Oh, I'll second it for you. Sure.
All right,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Yeah, you're not off the hook there, buddy.
Okay, all right.
Well,
I
Anybody
can't
else
make
wanna
a
make a
motion
motion
for
for a
myself. I
secretary?
want to, do
anybody want to change that?
you want to be secretary?
Secretary means, well, why don't you say what secretary means?
Nothing. It just means that you get to harass Frank and I keep.
Keep the schedule,
I
make
keep
all the
book
motions.
and, yeah, whack my jaw a lot. That's all.
Don't change.
But I'm
No.
very content
I,
with somebody else.
I already
wants
harassed Frank enough.
it. Okay.
We have a special
Okay.
relationship.
I think that's all
I think we
coming
keep
from my
Penny
left.
where it is. I just,
All right.
if it needs to be a motion, I make that motion.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
I'll vote for myself. I have no shame.
True.
I like what I do.
So,
Hey, listen, be
At
nice.
some point, we probably need to recut the deck, but we'll move
Well, right
along.
now, I mean, we're all
there any
happy,
other
unless if somebody really wants it,
Yeah.
Jerry.
So now we still have,
Junior peon.
we have, wow.
They're really getting it. Which is good.
So we have a number of liaisons, and the first one is Community Preservation Committee. We have to have, it's a voting member that actually serves on CPC from Conservation. So when someone from Conservation is on that, they're not only a liaison to go to a meeting once in a while, but they have to attend all the CPC meetings, and they're a voting member of the Community Preservation Committee. I served on it for a while. Penny's served on it and currently is serving on it. And it's a fair amount of work. I don't know, how often are they meeting?
I mean, a lot. I have a lot of projects going right now. So I'll be very honest, I would like to stay put at least for another year. I'd like to finish up the projects that I have going for them right now.
I don't
In
have
all
any,
honesty.
I certainly don't have any problem with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the one that's been most familiar with that. All the monies for the trails projects and stuff has to get moved
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
through the,
CPC. And we have the CRs, I'm still working on them. The parking lot will start soon, and I'm helping right now with the Ellis property.
But there are other assignments, so
Yep.
it's
Oh, there's
it's not
other
as though.
assignments.
yeah, no, we're not done.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
He's got more.
We're not done.
So anyways.
Well, and we're just like highlighting that this isn't the
Oh, no, this
only
is
thing.
not the end of all.
There's something for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Penny, you're gonna remain?
I would love to remain.
Okay. I don't even know that we need to vote that.
No,
I don't think so.
All right. So then Coastal Advisory is a commission, a committee that the selectmen formed to oversee sea level rise, coastal issues, all that sort of thing going around in the town. And it's a committee that meets monthly. There's no real regulatory piece to that. There's not like they're voting any pieces. We sort of work with the coastal resource person, Kyle Boyd. And right now, there's been a series of grants that have been given, and it's sort of information taking, community awareness. There's workshops and groups that are going on
Yeah.
in that one. It's interesting. There's a lot,
That's an interesting group. Yeah, it is.
and
We got the harbor resiliency right now going.
but there's also within that other subgroups. There's,
Yes, there are.
So harbor resiliency is one
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
Right now, they've just taken a grant, and they're going to try to have all these workshops, which some members may want to do. We'll get the information out on that. So, again, it's not like a regulatory thing, like you got to look at plans and all that sort of stuff, but it's working as a committee for awareness in that. And I'm happy to continue to do that, but I'm also happy to
Yeah.
pass that along if anybody has any interest in that piece. And we don't have to do all these tonight. Anybody can take the time to think about that a little bit. So, and I can answer more questions.
Might be helpful to disclose which night of the week they meet.
they meet on
Once a month.
Tuesdays generally.
Yeah,
The beach also meets on Tuesdays. I think it's the first Tuesday.
right. Richard served on it.
I did. I'm reluctant to do it now because my wife's on it, so.
Waterways, do we know
Well,
when
then you guys could
waterways
just
meet?
commute together. You'd be all
We
set.
do anyway, but
Huh?
Are waterways Tuesday also?
I really don't. I have no idea when
Well,
waterways meet.
the Waterways Commission has asked that we appoint a liaison to their committee, and I think it's not a voting person, it's someone that would just attend from conservation periodically when we have interaction with Waterways. So it's not a, but I don't know the night that they meet or the frequency that they meet, but I don't think that a person from this committee would need to meet to go to every one of their meetings.
But if
Right, I don't think
something's
it's
on the
regular
agenda, that might be of
engagement, yeah.
interest to us.
But they've requested that we get a member on board, and then there's a couple others. The beach, there's been a member from Conservation that's been on the beach committee.
That's been unfilled for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's not bad. I mean, it kind of makes sense in a way. The beaches are a resource area. You know, some people at the beaches want to construct all kinds of things or move stuff around, and it's not bad to have a conservation member on there to say, yeah, that's great, but it's in a resource area. So there's limits to what should be done or altered or make people aware of that. So it's, I don't, maybe we should just get the information on when they meet
Well, they meet on Tuesdays.
on Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's first Tuesday. Well, actually, because I was eyeing that meeting for February.
Did you want to be that person?
No. I was eyeing it in the fact that I think we need to, I mean, I don't want to mix up the combo, but I think that they are people that maybe need to be partners with this Museum Beach approach.
Yep.
So, the chairman is Nancy Fay. I'm going to reach out to her and just let her know.
Oh,
that
she'll
we-
jump right on
We would
that.
like to have a discussion.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to go with the new liaison. Maybe I could go just to hear it myself,
Okay,
since I'll be advising the other
all right.
people in the town.
I'm not a big beach goer, so,
Is that like, that's lower involvement, right?
Yes.
I can,
Wow.
well, you gonna stay with the trails?
Yeah, sure.
Well, you gotta stay.
How many are there?
You're stuck there.
There are more liaisons than people?
Well,
No.
so I, well,
Right now,
just,
we're looking for waterways.
I could
So
probably
in-
do waterways.
No, Frank is going to stay coastal.
well, so in terms of waterways, I think, in addition to these commission assignments, I think we also have some additional projects coming up, and that's what I really wanted to talk about, is that we've sort of been doing the parking and the access, and Penny's been working with, it's CPC funded, so Penny's been working with that, and I've been working with her, as you and Jen have as well. And then Jen Foley's been working with the Trails Group, the mapping, and all that sort of stuff, and those things are hopefully going to be coming to fruition this year, if everything goes along fairly well after a fairly long time. Those two groups are, a lot of that should come to fruition. Now, that's going to mean that other things are going to happen, like once we get access into the Crosby parcel, we can start to think of some other projects. There's grants available from Mass Fish and Wildlife to do emerging growth. I'd really like to try to get a forester on board this year to start to,
And not to cut you off, but all of those are on our project tracker list. So,
Yeah.
like, all of these ideas that kind of have come up
Yep.
we've made sure are on the list.
but what we want to try to do is sort of divvy up some of the
Oh, yeah.
responsibility of those. And then the Driftway Park is probably one, and I should mention that, I mean, well, so this week, Penny's we met with Maxwell Trust and try to get all these CRs, so like, it's just a lot of work. The conservation restrictions
Getting
are
close, getting close.
tremendous amount of paperwork, and we met with Maxwell this week to try to convert their CRs, and it's
Yeah,
coming
it's a
together.
long list of over years not having been done, and now we're gonna be all caught up to date.
And then I've sent my links over to Jen, that she's converted into a good chart, which I really
I love a good
appreciate.
pivot table.
But it's helpful to look at all the different projects we have going on. But our big projects are finishing up these parking and access areas, getting our trails in order. We've got a great group of folks working on the trails, good group of volunteers doing that, and they seem to be off and working hard. We've got the police department sort of revamped the position of not just an animal control officer anymore, but that person's out on the trails and doing a lot more enforcement and stuff, so that's all helpful. But the selectmen, in talking with a couple of selectmen, the big one I think coming up is the Driftway Park. It's our most used property. It has a lot of different facets to it. There's access to the Herringbrook. We have accessible trails on there. And there's some room to grow there. There's also starting to be some problems with the amount of available parking. And there's a lot of things that could be added to that. We could continue our walkway in some different directions. So the waterways folks would like to meet with us and talk about, their concern is the access to the Herringbrook. But that's not the only thing that's going on there. There's a whole array of things that we need to think about. The good news is, probably 8 or 10 years ago, we retained a firm, and they did a pretty extensive study of that area, and we actually have a lot of conceptual plans that we can sort of look at and think about what we want to do. But there's a lot of history to that park as well. It goes back like 78, and there was some monies that came from a couple of different entities, so we have to look at that and make sure that we stay within some of the agreements we may have made when we took some of that funding. So it's not just, let's go out and do something there.
We do have plans, we just haven't been able to get.
But I think it's something that I'd really like to
Get going.
to start to get to work on. And I think that's gonna take some time. It's gonna take some involvement, and
It's going to take more than one person to.
and after we start it, there's a whole process of stuff. There's public meetings, there's informational stuff. It can get involved, but I think that it's important to us, it's important to the town.
Could I just mention one thing? My feeling is, if anybody ever wants to go to another meeting, like to a trio meeting, if you felt, you're more than welcome to go. Just because you're not Jen's the liaison doesn't mean that we will not go to those meetings too.
Joy.
Well, it might be nice
No, it's definitely.
to have your support too.
Yeah.
Support you. You of Concom.
I don't know, Frank was pretty good last meeting.
Oh, well, Frank, yeah, I'm just saying, but,
Oh.
you know, you're more than welcome
Yeah.
to go. Don't think
Any of
you're.
these meetings.
Oh, yeah, any of them, no,
Right.
definitely. That's all I wanted to point out.
So which ones are you looking for homes, Frank?
Well, I think the Driftway
Waterways,
Park
Driftway Park.
and working with Waterway, I think that sort of goes hand in hand.
Okay, so a waterways.
A Waterways liaison, but also someone that wants, or some ones that would like to work on the Driftway Park would be good. I exchanged an email with Andy about that.
I can do waterways and.
Because, to be honest with you, Driftway Park is also possibly a bridge at some point in time over to the railroad bed that goes all the way out.
Don't scare him off.
Not
Let's-
yet, don't scare him.
Take it back.
No, you wouldn't be expected to do it by yourself. But it's
Oh,
just,
okay, well, the bridge? I know what
there's
you're talking
other
about.
things
That
down
dead ends out
there. That, well, we started it at one
opportunity
point,
for
and
growth.
then we got stopped for a while because of the development going in the 40B. But we had started looking for funds and so forth. But there's a lot,
Yeah, the Conservation
that we
Commission
can do
has the
down there.
custody of the railroad track, the old railroad bed that goes out to the North River.
Yeah.
goes all the way.
Right now, we have a small little picnic area right next to Dunkin' Donuts and a trail that walks in
All the way out there,
as
yeah.
far as the Herringbrook. But we actually have an agreement to go south from that trail. The mitigation from
Condos
James
out.
Landing and the Riverways is that there's a walking path that could go in front of those condos, and it pops out on the Driftway beyond where the museum, the historical
Mossing.
society, the Mossing Museum,
Yeah.
just east of the Mossing Museum, the little trail pops
It-
out
it
there.
comes
But
right out
Someone
on
that wanted to walk like that thing could actually go in a loop and walk around, and there's when they built the MBTA, they rebuilt some marsh. They call it Russo mitigation. It's sort of in back of that Riverways project. And there's a berm, and there's a couple of inlets that come into that marsh. And we have plans to build a couple of small bridges across those. So literally, it would make another loop. So in that Greenbush area, there could actually be a fair amount of walking.
It's really pretty out there.
And then, as Penny said, a much bigger project, which would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, is to build a bridge over the Herringbrook, so that people could actually access the rest of the railroad bed all the way to the North River. It's a beautiful walk. You can go out there and you can walk through the marsh and all the way out to the North River. The other side of that is Damon's Point.
Damon's Point and
As
Marsh.
long as it's low tide, you can't do it at high tide.
right.
It's flooded. But I used to take people on walks out there for the wreck. It's
Oh, it's
gorgeous.
beautiful out there.
So,
But,
so it would be a waterways liaison.
yeah,
That's once a month.
I don't think you'd be meeting with them that frequently.
So that part's not, but then a sort of project-based
For the drift,
driftway.
yep,
Yeah.
is what we're really looking to do. And I think there's a lot of good base material, and there's things to work with, and then, but I think, we're just getting at the start of that. I think, we'd want to wind up setting up a couple, or at least a meeting, like an info meeting, get some public input, those are the kind of thing, and I'm sure you're familiar with getting all that.
Yeah, I'd be interested in helping with that.
Okay.
Well, and it ties into CPC, because it's probably be funded
Oh,
with
yeah,
CPC.
more than likely.
Yep. Another one I'm trying to do is maybe foster a little bit more relationship with the scout troop. We've been working some with the scouts to do more projects. Right now, they've got a whole bunch of Eagles coming along. We're going to try to get with them this month and show them the various projects we have, and then see if we can entice as many scouts as possible to take on some of our projects. We sort of have to circle back to some of the town forests need some work. So we've got a whole bunch of, Jen made a great list of all the different projects that we have, and
You saw that last week,
we can kind
last
of
meeting.
break those up a
There's,
little.
there's more now, Penny.
Oh,
More now.
you put more on?
There's more on there.
Okay.
It's available online.
It's a Google Doc that I can send the link to. It's not like a public, it's not like publicly searchable.
These are the Trails projects.
Yeah.
Well, there's trails, there's parks, there's,
You trying to decide if
She's at
you
it.
can be trusted not to edit it.
I think some people are capable of viewing without editing, and
Some people aren't.
I don't like editing other people's work.
No,
so,
me either. I would look only.
Unless I'm reading.
and I'm not really looking for everybody to put their hand up tonight. I'm saying these things are out there, give it some thought, and if there's stuff that you want to
Well,
do.
there might be two of us doing one project too. It's not as though Frank's trying to get you to just send you out there not knowing what the heck his expectations are.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I know it isn't going to, that's what I'm saying. You're not gonna do that.
so what are are there any others that you feel a pressing need to get assignments tonight
I don't see any.
besides
well,
waterways?
What about beach?
Who wants a beach? That's a fun
I
one.
think we're going to have to draw straws on that one.
Yeah.
What's so bad about the beach?
Oh, we're on TV.
It's a great, it's a great assignment. I think that you'd enjoy it.
You're gonna get me in trouble, thank you.
Well, so the liaisons,
Doug's not here.
unless you're a
Oh,
voting
we could
member,
give
you're
it to
just
Doug.
listening and observing, and then reporting back to the commission on
Yeah.
what they talk about.
Okay.
And if there's something that's relevant, you might pipe up and go, oh, yeah, you like say paving a new parking lot, if they're, but they by and large, they're reined in by DPW because they're gonna fund a lot of their stuff, you know what I mean? So
No,
They don't
Yeah.
usually look the other way, but
Well, they've
it's
come
good
to
to have our,
CPC
you
for a
know,
lot of
eyes
stuff.
on them and be a
Yeah.
part of, just to report back.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sounds like Brendan wants to give it a whirl.
Oh, that, well, then the other,
Brendan, I'm just,
if you were to ask me what the really major pieces are, aside from the ongoing projects of
Yeah.
the access and the trails, we want to get on to the Driftway Park.
yeah.
And then we also receive money from Toll Brothers to start to
Ooh.
develop a plan
That's right.
to protect the Scituate Brook.
Scituate Brook, yeah.
Or improve it. And, you and I talked about that the other day, and I'm not even quite sure how to start that. And when we settled with Toll Brothers, we wound up with $30,000, which isn't a ton of money for that whole brook.
Nothing.
But, anybody that's got some thoughts and how we start to move forward with that, like I say, you and I talked about a little bit, just, do we first just map it, assess it? I don't know. But we have that funds to do it, and I think it's something we should,
Can that 15,000 we just got go towards that too?
we can apply some to that, yep.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to beef it up a little.
Yep. We have a few,
I'm not so sure about that, honestly,
Why?
because of the wording, so I have to look into it.
well, let's see, I think,
Yeah, all right.
but, the idea would be that we start a project there and then look for some more funding and then decide how extensive we're gonna be with the brook, I just don't even know. We just know that we want to address that.
Well, we need to have some focused meetings to talk about goals.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Let's
Like, are
see
we
who
talking
we need to
about
hire.
zoning changes, or are we just, like, we talked about it, Frank, like,
Yeah.
are we just assessing it, trying to troubleshoot some areas we already know are problems along the way? Are we trying to hone in right down in on the harbor, where we might be able to make some improvements with the money? Rather than study the whole thing, like there's known issues down there.
There's
At the
definitely
outlets.
major issues.
I mean, I'd like to get with somebody that's done a couple of brooks or something like that and say, how did you start? How did you go forward?
That ecological restoration.
Yep.
Yeah.
I work with a guy at Mass Wildlife who's restored Red Brook and Wareham. I can connect you to him.
Be a good person to quiz and see what's the good
Yeah.
way. That would be great.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Okay.
It's a beautiful little brook, but it needs
Yep.
some love.
That'd be some good feedback, Andy. So I could say Jen's done a great job of mapping out all these projects and we've got the trails folks sort of focused on some of the town, the different areas like Ellis and whatnot. They're out there on the trails and they're already running with that, so I don't think we need to fuss with that too much.
Can I circulate the notes from that
Sure.
meeting to the larger group?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't know what's allowed,
No.
like, through a meeting law
Yeah.
stuff. So I can forward along. I'm not promising that I'm going to do it after every meeting, but I was feeling particularly inspired, and kind of wrote up a summary of the things that we had talked about with kind of like a trail by trail note. So I can forward that along to everybody.
Oh, I like that.
I just did send it to you already.
Thank you.
Just a minute ago.
Yeah, we got into how we're gonna deal with the signage and the kiosks and the information and everything that goes up on that. So at some point, ultimately, the commission will want to vote those things. So once all that information's sort of put together, it'll come to the commission. Maybe even like first a draft of it or first swipe ought to come in and just have folks take a look at it and say, yeah, we like it, or we really think it ought to takes them on some changes or whatever. You know, it was good, the meeting, Officer Keefe was there, he's the one that's doing the enforcement, so he was pretty strong about making sure we had certain signs posted so that then they can enforce that, the dogs, the ATVs, leash law, that sort of thing.
I got the dog signs in my back room for those
Oh.
parking areas.
Well, I think that
And
there's,
can I just say
We've
a
already
thing
made them.
Yeah.
that is important? On this list, waterways, CPC, coastal advisory, beach, those are official recognized committees.
Yep,
The Trails Committee is, we call it a committee, but really it's just a passionate group of volunteers who share the interest of promoting trails in Scituate right now. So, I mean, like, you guys don't post agendas or, so you're not really officially a committee. We could talk about formalizing a Trails Committee. I mean,
I think we want to stay informal.
right,
Yeah.
so we just need to be, you know.
But I think there's a member or two from the commission that, like, these folks are meeting that are doing the trail work, but we want to have a member of the commission or
Absolutely, so
two.
it's, so, because you want to focus and rally, right, your efforts
Right.
and keep track of it, but ultimately, anything that they do that's going to be officially endorsed comes in front of the Conservation Commission. But really, I mean, you guys are just enthusiastic volunteers that maintain the trails with a very ambitious list, which is awesome. So that's great.
And then, and then there is some pieces that we need to pick up on, and dealing, like Amy and myself, Penny, Jen's had some discussion. We have some enforcement issues that we're working at, and that's constant. Another sort of frustration, and it's been time-consuming for Amy, is we have a number of large projects going on in town. The Toll Brothers project, there's a lot to that. We're working in conjunction with the planning board, the building department, DPW, but I'm more saying this just as a workload for the commission. You know, there's an awful lot of moving pieces there, and it's time-consuming for agent or administrative people, Jen, to do that. Then we also have a 40B project on 3A that's had some violation issues, and the same thing with another 40B project that's kicked up off of Stockbridge Road at Greenfield. There's,
Well, in this 279 Old Oak and Bucket, that's what,
and there's another subdivision.
well, no, we've heard that's a 40B.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's, somebody was reporting through the building department inquiries that they are looking at a 40B in there.
So all those things eat up time and energy. But it's part of, it's kind of like this, the fun stuff with the trails and all that, and then there's the regulatory stuff that is hearings and whatnot, and some of them can get fairly lengthy. So I'm not looking for anything big. What else would you like to see acted on tonight, Jennifer?
wow, full name. No, I think we're good. I'll circulate the list, and if there's things in there that you disagree with the priority of, the purpose of the list is to kind of encompass some like long-term projects as well as short-term, but not be like, this tree needs to be taken down, because that's just not super helpful, and then it gets lost. So when you're reading it, like if something doesn't feel right, like you think it should be a higher priority or lower priority, like let's talk about it, because I made them all up. I did add another column. I did add another column in there for categorization to hopefully kind of highlight some of the things I feel like we'd all talked about. Like, is this helping access or is this helping safety? So we can kind of see where our efforts are going. So I'll shoot those around. I think that's really it.
and it's helpful. It's huge.
And then let's get all those kayaks removed that I counted. 49.
49.
I think it was 46 or 49. The deck's in here. Did that go to everybody?
No.
Oh. I'll
Yeah.
send that around.
Well, let me just tell you that we've caused a little bit of a stir.
Good.
But it's not going anywhere quickly. I think it's all in the approach. There's a lot of discussion going on, trying to identify whether there's bylaws that, give us the action power, or maybe the preferred method is to talk it up. Actually, I think Jen and I were batting around, maybe it could be even rolled into ship shape action type of priority. But I think based on conversations with some of the local residents, that what is there really are people that live down in that general area. So, just going and taking them away is probably not going to be a good idea. We need to provide notice.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, notice.
You know what I mean? So some kind of notice. So I think maybe Beach Commission, see how we can get the word out there. But there is a strong interest from a lot of people I talk to that share the same opinion that there should not be boat storage on the beach. But on the other hand, I speak to some people who really don't want to get into the middle of it and, swirl it around because maybe is it a by right storage kayaks there? I mean, I don't know. I've heard that floated around. So people have opinions.
Right.
Well, I've heard the other one that, they've had them there forever, and what's the problem?
Yeah.
Looks like a dump. That's the
So,
problem.
but no, I think maybe establishing some kind of boundaries or policy and have it posted come spring, work with the residents to get it cleaned up as we head into spring, and that way they know what to expect. And then, maybe between Conservation Commission and the Beach Commission, say, listen, this is why we don't want kayaks stored. I mean, I've been looking around at other towns and how they handled it. Some have racks, some just want to put a decal on your watercraft so they at least know who you are. But it seems like that's administered with Park and Rec, so it hasn't really been conservation. But clearly we have interest for sure.
Well,
We
I
don't
think-
own the property though.
But we still have a responsibility to protect the dune
Yeah.
and that resource.
Right, so, but, we're not gonna give the town an enforcement order, so enforcement manual would say that we wanna work with them, so that's what we're trying to do, we're working collectively. There's a lot of discussion yesterday amongst the department heads, on how to proceed. I did not get the impression that TA wants to go full bore without, a good plan in place.
Right.
So, that's what we're trying to do,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, and all honestly, I don't think anybody, once before we had mentioned, what about putting racks up at one end of the beach? If the people down there, I don't have a problem with them paying for putting up a rack, storing the kayaks during the summer, neat, orderly, but I do have a problem with them just leaving 29 articles of stuff down there on the beach, on the dune grass. I mean, it is, and if we get a storm, where do you think it's going? It's either going in the road or it's going in the harbor. So, I mean, it's just kind of, it just needs to be cleaned up. You want to keep your stuff there, fine. Why don't the neighborhood get together, put a nice rack up, store them or something to lean them against during the summer?
But I think getting some dates and stuff on them, we've had a little bit of this discussion.
Yeah.
Like we have a remote camp in Maine, and, people that fish them will, take great efforts to lug a canoe or kayak into some remote pond, but they're not going to take it out. And then the next thing you know, there's 10 or 15 old boats lining the shore. And that's in a pretty remote area. This is right here on the beach.
If
And
you
so,
drive past there, it's like,
so some of those
Yeah.
have been used fairly regularly, but I am surprised that so many people leave them year-round.
Yeah.
And then I think there's others that are just become abandoned.
Well, that's okay too, so we'll find a home for them in the pile. But, you know, I just think there should be not that big of a deal. It is town-owned property and just, okay, it's time to reel this in. Maybe it is the beach group. That could be a good campaign for them. It's time to reel this beach in. It is a public beach. They don't own that beach.
I think
Right, well,
Brendan's really excited about the opportunity.
We're called out in the office.
Feeling pressure.
Pretty regularly, there are people that repeat callers, you know, when are you guys going to deal with it? I think, and actually, that was one of the first conversations I had with my tour around town with Frank and Patrick, was, oh yeah, that museum, that's going to be a headache of yours someday.
And, you know, it's not, we have lots of big problems, big projects
The
going on
big perk is,
town.
if you're
This is a
the
simple
beach liaison,
thing
you could
that
probably
easily be
submit
taken care of.
for
Send notice
expense
out.
report for
They
suntan
will be
lotion.
removed, people.
Yeah, you could,
You have a month
Get
or
reimbursed.
whatever, and then remove them and then start from fresh. Or have the beach association
Do we
come
have
up
anything
with
else?
a little thing.
I think we're good to,
Yeah.
Right.
all right,
but
we got, everybody's got the gist.
Yeah.
You don't want them to shoot the messenger, because that seems to be.
Do you have anything you want to tell us about before we adjourn?
I had a bunch of stuff, but I think at this point.
CFCs.
Oh, we have CFCs, yes.
And minutes, please. Where were the minutes? I missed the minutes, I'm sorry.
We do have CFCs.
I did see minutes, but I missed them on the paper.
They're not on the first.
Oh, well, that's why I missed them on paper.
Maybe they are.
So we have 3 completed projects, 169 Border Street, which is a single-family home, 152
Oh, we did those.
Jericho.
We
We
did
already
those
voted
while you were
those.
gone.
Oh,
No,
you did,
the
okay.
CSCs,
Oh,
yeah.
but those are the orders, okay. CFCs, 8 Newell, 52 Central, 157 Border.
And you've been out to those?
Yes,
And you good with them?
yes.
You're happy?
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have minutes. What were they,
The-
Jen?
No, she's just got to be good with
The
them. We're good with them.
certificates of compliance, we don't have to
We don't
vote.
vote.
Amy just
December
lets us
meeting
know
and
that
January
she's
6th.
been there
They're all
and done
good.
that.
December 2nd, December 16th, and January 6th.
Okay.
Well, all right, so just real quick.
Yep.
So we have another red folder for, it was just work without a permit or unpermitted work at 7 Garfield, where they kind of cleared out the vegetation and new owners wanted to do some landscaping. So
What is
they-
that?
That's down in Humrock,
Down in
and
Humrock,
I've been
they
by
just
there several times.
Took everything out.
There's a mulch sock in
Yep.
place. So they do have, actually, they got Steve Ivis involved. So we've got a restoration plan from Ivis, who's on winter break. But we would like to get back to them and let them know that it looks good and that they should plant once planting season comes
You
around.
can also let them know they're being watched,
Yes.
because I go by there almost every day.
Yep. And so whether or not we want to memorialize that in an enforcement order or actually just accept their restoration plan formally, I think would be the way to go. So you could vote to approve the restoration plan for 7 Garfield.
I make a motion, we accept the restoration plan for 7 Garfield.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept the minutes as written for December 2nd, 16th, and January 2nd.
Second.
6th.
6th, I'm sorry. Yeah,
So we have a second, all in
Second.
favor?
All right.
aye.
I'm sure I didn't say what she said.
I think we're good.
That's all right.
And then,
yeah.
okay, so I did go to this really cool workshop today, and it was put on by, like, you know, well, first of all, it's a city, so City of Newton. So they've got staff, they, you know, a little bit different. They don't have the bylaw, they just have the Wetlands Protection Act, but still, it's a city. And, but anyway, so it was running an efficient office and going through all of her procedures on how she has it, you know, fine-tuned to the nth degree. It was pretty amazing. So got some really inspirational
Wow,
tips
what's
on that. Try to maybe streamline some of the things that we do to make it more efficient. So, because we've, I mean, I've, you know, as you know, I'm number 5 agent in the last 10 years. So a lot of, with, you know, administrative procedures that went back to that first probably agent, and they haven't really been modified since, a lot of the office procedures, so. 'Cause I think after Vinny, it was 2 quick transitions, and then Pat was here for a little while, but that wasn't really his big thing to make any changes in the office. So, I mean, I'm not looking to make big changes, but if we can try to streamline and do more efficient organization as far as, like, even the filing system, like, just like the electronic organization of the files, like even that, you know what I mean, it can take you 10 minutes just to find something simple. You know what I mean? So we're working on it, but yeah, there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, and it can be overwhelming, like, so just going through, which is really an overlap of what Frank just said, but, you know, the things that I spend my time on, the large majority is our permitting volume. So that's our huge focus in just meeting the timelines that we need to meet in order to issue the permits and get everything in order and comments out and paperwork distributed to you and going back and forth with peer reviews. And then there's all that with land management. There's your basic office administration responsibilities. We do public engagement like all day long. We have people stopping in and asking all types of fun questions. Some of them are more time consuming than others. Like yesterday I had a lady in who wanted a bench on, in memory of her late husband down at the end of Stone Ave. Well, it's on the berm that's due to be rebuilt. But anyway, so that, you know, was a lot of hand-holding. It was, you know, nice to engage with the public, but I mean, it's not a quick conversation, you know what I mean? So that makes it interesting. Then we've got our trails, we've got our construction oversight for this stuff that's already been permitted, big and small projects, and you can't micromanage, like as much as Mr. Nezrella would like me to go out there at every turn. I mean, I'm sorry, but
It ain't gonna happen.
the town will have to staff up, you know, so if you guys can get your selectmen to prioritize staffing up conservation, that would be terrific. And then, of course, there's enforcement, so.
And there's the ocean.
And there's foreshore protection, right, we've got a huge NOI coming in for Third Cliff.
Yep.
So that's, you know, there's lots of meetings for those projects that I'm involved in also, coastal stuff. And then I get to deal with the planning board too.
There you go.
And the building department. And the DPW.
It's all fun.
It's great.
Okay.
Look at all the help you get.
And the Board of Health, yeah. We all work together, so it's good.
Okay,
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
You shouldn't forget anything.
Too late.
Probably did, but that's all right. I'll remember it tomorrow. I'll call you and harass you. There's no problem doing that. You're all gonna sit here.
Really?
Going home.
Oh, Jen's going to give us things to autograph.